Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome back, I guess. I'd like to remind everyone that our meetings are web streamed and televised, and for those in attendance, that I would ask that you ensure your phones are on silent mode. As this is a special council meeting, the only matters considered are those listed on the agenda. We are able to waive the rules of procedural order with a 2/3 majority. So if anybody has any items to add, and seeing none then, we will proceed with the agenda as set. First up, is there any declarations of pecuniary interest on any matters? Okay, seeing none, we have three closed session items preliminarily. If I could have a motion, in fact, I have a motion moved by Councillor Van Passen and seconded by Councillor Michelli, that council convene in closed session at 9:04 a.m. pursuant to sections B and D of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended, as the subject matter pertains to personal matters about identifiable individuals, including employees of local municipalities and boards, and relates to labor relations and employee negotiations. I think we have the wrong one, actually. Okay, that's better. Okay, so it's actually motion moved by Councillor Geisens and seconded by Councillor Van Passen that council move into closed session at 9:04 a.m. pursuant to sections 239, 2E, F, and C of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended, as the subject matter pertains to litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality of local board, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, and subject matters that pertain to a proposed acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. So again, moved by Councillor Van Passen, seconded by Councillor Van Passen. That's in relation to the DCS update for an LPAT matter, as well as staff report ECS 19-36, which is a property-related matter in Ward 5, and staff report ECS 19-37, which is also regarding a property-related matter in Ward 5.
For over 150 years, Canadian farmers have faced the toughest conditions head-on, with one goal in mind: to get food to your table. Well, obviously, the farm is kind of a celebration of the hard work of our family, so as many farms are, they're kind of a staple of family unity, family work. This farm has been in our family for about 4 generations, since the 1800s. We've focused on orchard and asparagus, so we grow apples, tart cherries, and some pears. I enjoy being part of a business that impacts so many different families, and it really helps improve the quality of life for people. My parents and I, we purchased the farm in 1990, but personally, been doing it for almost about 20 years on my own. It sure is fun getting up in the morning and having something that's actually contributing. Horticulture is a quarter of agriculture in Canada, and it's what you actually go to the grocery store and pick that apple, pick that cherry. Healthy eating is a hot topic these days, so it just seems like we're involved in an industry that's really in the hip and the now. We have a microclimate in Canada that we can grow almost all the different types of fruit and vegetables that we need. It's hard work, tilling and planting and pruning and harvesting, working the land, and gambling that the weather gods will be kind. Efficiency is absolutely critical, attention to detail is absolutely critical, and to try and hire enough local people we know isn't possible. There's a huge labor gap, especially in horticulture across the country. Most people don't understand agriculture as a whole. I don't think they understand how much work goes into production. A lot of it's physical labor, so it is a lot of us picking, packaging, like we package all of our cucumbers by hand. The days are possibly gone of lots of people realizing the benefits of working outside, getting some fresh air, using their muscles. The reality is that lots of local people, they don't want to work in the farm, because everybody looking for other jobs, indoor jobs, right? Sachant que le bassin d'emploi ici au Québec, Canada, on n'a pas de gens, c'est plate à dire, compétents pour faire la
Des gens qui sont prêts à travailler de très très longues heures dans des conditions chaudes pour faire un ouvrage qui est essentiel pour la production agricole.
We used to hire a lot of local teenagers. They simply weren't interested in working the long hours outside in the sun. They wanted, short 3-hour days and just 3 days a week, and then they were on vacation for the 3 weeks that strawberries were ready. So it just was really hard to schedule and manage all of that.
For the last half-century or so, a group of people from places like Guatemala, Mexico, Trinidad, and Jamaica, people like Shervin, Nalini, Babu, and Joe, have come to Canada every year, stood beside our farmers and greenhouse operators, and made it possible for this extraordinary work to take place. And we've opened our hearts to them. That's just how it is in Canada.
If I didn't have access to labor from the Seasonal Agriculture Worker Program, I don't think I would be farming. My last year farming without bringing in my employees from Mexico, man, I was ready to give up. Just for my Golden Delicious, I went through 16 different people. Some people would say, oh, we'll be there tomorrow. They wouldn't show up. Other people would show up, but they would just be, dropping the apples like crazy, turning them into juice.
So the temporary foreign worker programs are essential in filling that gap, but also because you have the opportunity to offer a person a contract the next year, and they have the opportunity of whether or not they want to work for you again the next year. You have that opportunity to have consistency of training, so you're not training a whole group of people every year.
It's the way the world functions. We have to compete in this country against a lot of offshore products that are manufactured, grown, whatever, in economies where the standard of living is nowhere near what we dream of and live in Canada. If I did not have international farm workers, I would not be here. It's that bad. Reliable labor. Period.
We're the Canadian Horticultural Council, and we want you to meet the workers who make our farms and greenhouses thrive, and the Canadian farmers who are their hosts. So, we're going to share some of those stories with you so you can find out what's going on down on the farm.
Pues allá ahorita están 180 todo el día, 200 cuando mucho.
I'm asking him what's the payment back in Mexico. He says maximum 200 pesos a day, which is the equivalent to $12, $13 for a whole day.
I start this program from 1988, and it take care of my family, my children to school. When I started it, I didn't know that I would be on it so long, but I started at a young age, and I grew on it. I have that love for this program.
It wasn't very complicated. We would apply for workers in the past, and it happened to be all men. Then one year we get a phone call from the Trinidad office going, you know, we'd like to know if you wouldn't mind having women on your farm. And we looked around, go, yeah, like what do you mean, would we mind?
I love the farm, right? This is my first experience being on a farm, and for me, it is very nice being here. I got the opportunity to help my family, so it is really, really nice for me.
When I started in 2009, they was taking women, and before they were saying they would only was taking men on this farm, but then he decided to take women, which I was glad to come here.
And I've learned to do different things that I never thought that I could do, but I think at this farm you get a lot of opportunities, and it's up to you to take it and try new things.
This is like people back home, we would say this is our bread and butter. When we say our bread and butter, this is what we do to gain money. So if it's ever taken away from us, we don't know where we will fall. We don't know where we stand. So I think this is a very good opportunity for us, and having us come to Canada every year, it does a lot for us Trinidadians.
And it's not all about working, because I did some courses too, like first aid, to be on the field out here in case of somebody getting injured. I can assist. I got a certificate in it. And I learned to drive the bus. I also am trained to drive forklift.
I think I have to prove myself to myself first. Yeah, that I could do it. And then my employers would see that I could do it.
Working here, working in Jamaica, the difference is like the money. That is a huge difference, right? So when you have $1 a year, you have $97 back home in Jamaica. So when you have $1,000 here, it's $97,000 back home. So that make a big difference, right?
Like that is it's like when people from Nova Scotia go to Alberta. Like they leave here, go to Alberta and make big money. Same with the guys from Jamaica. So it's like this awesome opportunity for them to make a bunch of money.
It's a better standard of living overall.
Acabé mi casa, hice una sala con mármol, forré mi baño de mármol, compré una sala, un refrigerador y pues le hice sus sueños a mi hija, ¿no? Unos 15 años que ella tanto quería, y gracias a Dios, pues ya trabajo de Canadá, pues le hice su sueño a mi hija.
Thanks to this job here in Canada, he finished his house and he gave his daughter her dream, which was to have his big party of 15 years old. That's like a dream for every 15-year-old girl. And many fathers start saving for that since they are babies, since the daughters are babies.
On our team here, his name is Bobby, and his wife had called him earlier that week saying that the textbook bill had come in, and it was quite extravagant. It was going to be like 40,000 Jamaican dollars.
She texted me for the cost for the book list. Yeah, and it's way more than I've expected.
Big bill, but he was so thankful to say that he told her to go ahead and write the check and pay the bill because he has a job here in Canada that he could support his family back in Jamaica so they could do their post-secondary education and carry on.
The program here just make it simple. Yeah, I just thank God for this program that I could be able to pay his school fee off, pay his book list off, and have everything under control. Yeah.
C'est leur ouvrage qui vivent au Guatemala. On a des ouvriers guatémaltèques ici. Ils sont des producteurs agricoles au Guatemala. Ils savent qu'est-ce que ça prend, qu'est-ce que c'est, puis ils ont une passion pour la production aussi.
This is agriculture. Food production doesn't have the margins enough to pay a lot of money. But for Mexican workers, I know that the impact of this money is a lot. It's big for their lives. Their kids go to good schools. Their kids will have opportunities. They will have small businesses. They will have better lives. And I can testify that every 2 weeks when they get paid, they go to send the money, and that goes to the wife, that goes to build the house, that goes to the expenses, or maybe to have some chicken, some pigs, whatever they need to do there, with the help of their families in Mexico.
Bueno, la verdad nosotros venimos a trabajar aquí por la misma necesidad que en Guatemala no es posible para poder alimentar a un hijo, donarle una educación, donarle un vestimenta, alimentos, es muy difícil. La oportunidad que tenemos aquí en Canadá es muy grande. Ahora los pequeños bebés son mucho más alegres, ellos felices con un pequeño regalo, una casa mucho mejor. Ellos, de verdad, es aunque un poco triste cuando uno partir, pero realmente al regresar ellos se sienten mucho más felices porque sí se sabe que realmente la necesidad que viene a cubrir uno aquí sí vale la pena.
Few Canadians are aware of the fact that there is a career path for international farm workers. Just like in any other industry, hard workers who demonstrate skills, initiative, and leadership move from pickers to team leaders to supervisors. Many have brought their families here and settled. Some have even bought existing properties here in order to start a new life as Canadian farmers.
I started the program in 2009. I started out in the greenhouse as we all came here to do. I remember the greenhouse supervisor, he said to me, you know what, Sherv, I'm not gonna send you to work in the warehouse ever, because if I send you to the warehouse, they are not gonna send you back over here. So he made the awesome mistake of sending me to the warehouse, and the rest is history. I started out as a packer there, and I gradually climb up the chain. Now I'm the warehouse manager.
Shervin is here. He's here alongside with his wife Monique, who goes to school here, and he really has embraced our culture in itself. And Shervin, this is where he'll start a family.
My workers are totally invested in my business, and we have an understanding that, you know, I have to be successful, and if I'm successful, they'll have more work. We can we'll expand. We'll be leasing more orchards or buying more orchards. We can bring more workers, so it helps everybody.
program is very regimented by the government in terms of what we have to do and how we have to do and what we have to report, and we have all kinds of regulations built around worker safety and employment standards and so on. It's reviewed every year by both the employers and the employees, so it is collective bargaining on issues of what's provided to workers at the workplace and how workers are treated. So a lot of thought and energy's got into that from the Canadian government, from the foreign governments, and from the employers. So it's really, the onus is on the employer to respect that and to cooperate with the rules, and everything will go good for you.
Right now I have around, I think, about 60 workers from the program. And every year that it's growth. Every year we get more and more.
So what we get from Jamaica are some really great, I call them highly skilled farm workers. They are professional farmers.
There's a lot of goodwill from people in the community who understand the value of this program to the community, and local business leaders definitely know what the economic impact is of this, because for every $10 that I spend on a worker's wage, it has a ripple of effect of about $30 in the local economy. And there have been studies on that to verify that.
The economic spin-off that Leamington enjoys from the migrant workers being here is substantial. Our guesstimate is more along the $18 million a year in economic input into this community, just from their shopping habits that they have. So when you look at the greenhouse industry as a whole, even our field farmers where these migrant workers are working, it's more than just the greenhouse industry. It's all the spin-off industry that's really hard to put your fingers on, but it's in the millions. So it's been very good for our municipality. The spin-off to employment, whether it's the trucking companies, the packaging firms, a greenhouse operation employs so many people outside of the temporary foreign workers that it's huge in this community for sure.
Yeah, we have guys that have come to us since we started. Now since 2010, every year, and a lot of times at the end of the day you go out and you talk to them. And then 5 years ago we started a baseball league in Leamington, and I did it just because I wanted to get to know them a little bit more, just than always me as an employer and them as an employee. And that's why we went out on a Sunday afternoon and they had nothing to do, and we got a couple teams together and started playing baseball. So. That the migrant workers get to know the local people more of the migrant workers, and then just Sunday afternoon have some fun. And it got pretty serious. We got 5 teams now that we're playing every Sunday afternoon, and it's a lot of fun. And that's how we can share a lot of things. And they talk more of their personal things and that they do in Mexico and what they have done in Mexico. And because when we started, I told them, I said, we're all friends.
We communicate via Wi-Fi pretty much every day. I talk to my wife every day, and that's, with the telephone. My daughter, my grandson, I video chat my grandson 3 or 4 times a week.
We have Wi-Fi, we can talk back to our Wi-Fi, can see my family, see my little kids running up and down and say, Daddy, when you coming back? And say, Daddy, remember you bring that thing for me,
Que haya una comunicación constante, ¿no? Tanto con la mujer, con los hijos. Por la cosita más mínima que sea, hazle sentir que tú estás ahí, para ellos, ¿no? Tanto para la mujer como para tu hijo. Cualquier duda que tengan, te la puedan preguntar, sientan la confianza. No porque estamos a miles de kilómetros, ¿no?
Nous, ici, depuis l'année 2000, présentement, on a une trentaine de travailleurs étrangers qui sont mexicains. On a eu un travailleur qui se nomme Valentine, que Dans le fond, tranquillement, il est arrivé au début des années 2000 avec nous autres. Puis tranquillement, il s'est démarqué à travers l'équipe. C'était quelqu'un qui avait un certain leadership.
J'ai pris la décision de venir ici avec ma famille. Premièrement, parce que j'étais venu ici à peu près 9 ans. Puis 6 mois ici, 6 mois au Mexique, ça c'est plate parce qu'on est ici toute seule. Puis toute seule, on n'a pas de femme, on n'a pas des enfants, on n'a pas de famille ici.
Puis Valentine, je pense qu'il sait qu'il est apprécié, il est aimé. Je pense qu'il aime vraiment son emploi ici. Il est content de la réalité puis de la fierté de ce qu'il fait au niveau de son travail ici. Fait que c'était pas un choix pour lui de rapetisser le contrat. Puis il nous en parlait, il avait les larmes aux yeux, puis il savait plus quoi choisir. Puis à un moment donné, il nous est arrivé, puis il nous a dit, bien, si c'est ma femme puis mes enfants qui s'en viennent ici, ça serait-tu correct? C'est une panoplie de gens qui amènent des cultures différentes, que ce soit africaine, que ce soit colombienne, mexicaine. C'est ouvert à la mondialisation, aux saveurs aussi, de connaître. Puis je pense que ça peut juste apporter une ouverture vers le monde. Puis Valentine a été un de ceux-là.
Pues sí, es un gran cambio. Aparte de que está muy bonito, el trabajo está pues bien, aparte del frío, pues aquí adentro. Y pues está todo bien. Sí, es un gran cambio, pero es para bien, para un mejor futuro. Para los niños, sí, mejor futuro para ellos.
También.
También.
So some of the things that we've done to support our employees have been yoga programs. The last 2 years, I've had some of my teachers, Gina Wasserline and Misha Swan from Moksha, come and teach basic yoga for the employees to basically as a way to cope with strenuous work, repetitive work, to take tools from these classes to be able to do this on their own. If they say, you know, my wrists are sore today, like I've got some wrist stretches that I can take home and I can do this on my own.
Yeah! You guys are amazing. You guys are amazing. Hold on.
And so we've had these classes accessible, and I, rotate through employees to make sure they all get an opportunity to do them and learn what they can from it and go from there.
Yeah, that's good. Bend your knees. Yeah, over here. There you go.
I mean, another thing that we do, we have been running a school here on the farm, teaching the guys how to, getting them, bringing the literacy up for the guys. And so, and I help with that by texting. Before I couldn't send a text to anybody. And now, I slowly we're getting into texting and helping them, like some of them have very little schooling, so math. And so we all sat down and said, what do you want to learn? Math and writing. We've increased that. This is year 3 now.
We saw one former worker whose son was from St. Lucia. He was able to put his son through to become a doctor. Well, that son ran for politics and got elected, and he went to the incoming prime minister and says, I want to be the Minister of Labor because I want to be responsible for the foreign worker program. He saw the benefit because he saw the benefit in his own family.
International farm workers pay taxes, pay into the Canada Pension Plan and employment insurance programs. They also buy groceries, gifts, and supplies to send home, partake in social activities, eat in restaurants. In communities where there is a large concentration of international farm workers, their impact is quite significant. Canada is known far and wide for the generous way in which we contribute to foreign aid, sending billions of dollars each year to nations around the world. The International Farm Worker Program can be viewed as direct foreign aid.
It's the best foreign aid program that Canada has because, number one, it doesn't cost the government a dime. Number two, that money is going directly into the hands of farm worker communities, minimal cost, no cost to government, and most direct benefit to the end user. So I think that's really misunderstood.
Every time I make a paycheck here, I know that because of the number of people those workers are supporting, I'm supporting 8.5 people back in Jamaica.
Well, when I leave Jamaica and come here on this farm to work, it more better for you. It more better for us in Canada because you earn money to take care of your family.
He's got 11 children back home. He has 3 sets of twins. His wife had developed brain cancer when the last set of twins were 2 years old and she died. He lost his house. The arrangement he had, he didn't have anything on paper to say that that was his, and so he lost where he was living, and he's starting all over again.
Working in Canada helped me to get this house, to fix up the way how I wanted, you know? Yeah.
After Kevin has lost everything in his previous marriage of 15 years, it wouldn't be so fast for him if he wasn't working at Morris Farm to start all over again within a space of few years or so. Yes, he has accomplished this piece of land and house, and if it wasn't for Morris Farm, it couldn't have happened, because working in Jamaica, it's hard.
Kevin has a boy who's 5 years old, who's got sickle cell anemia. He said that it costs him $500 a month for the medication to keep that boy alive. He said, without this program, boss, he said, my boy dies. That's what it means to Kevin Thomas.
I don't like the program to continue that we can have a better life for my wife and my kids them. So because the program help us a lot, you know, help us a lot, you know. Yeah.
And trust me, it's like $8,000 for a blood test. Yes. And we have to go into Kingston to get the medical done. Now we ask for it to done down here now. Yeah, and the next thing now they're gonna close down the clinic in August. So we're gonna even have it rougher. But thank God for Murray's work. Yes. That employer, Mr. Murray Purchase, God bless him.
Kevin Thomas wants the minister to know that this program's important to him, to his family, and to his son. He's been buying land and planting coffee and keeping livestock so that he can support himself when he's done working in the program. But for the 12 or so years that he's worked here, he's done a great job. He's a great guy to work with. We really appreciate him, and we know we're making a big difference back home in his family.
Mr. Murray, I don't know you, but I love you so much. I said, Kevin, you have the best boss. And Kevin come and tell me anything about him. I say, yes, thumbs up to Mr. Murray. I love you, Mr. Murray. Yeah. Thank you for helping my husband so that he can take care of his family. He's a good dad. He's a cut above the rest. I love you too, Kevin.
It's a different culture than it is in Canada. Here you try and get ahead. Everybody's trying to get ahead. Whereas in a developing country, if somebody has to come from their family to work in Canada, then a brother-in-law maybe is tending their crops, or a sister's looking after their livestock. Those people are all part of the process. So when those people send money back home that are working here, they're sending it to their community. And the community comes ahead, not the individuals. So it's a different cultural mentality.
Ces gens-là sont de la famille pour nous. Pour nous, ils travaillent à côté de nous, ils ont les mêmes valeurs que nous. Puis à la fin de la journée, c'est vraiment le fun d'avoir un ami comme ça. Ils deviennent absolument des amis. J'ai un énorme respect pour ces gens-là. C'est une inspiration pour moi de voir ce qui est accompli ici à la ferme et à la maison pour eux. José est arrivé il y a 6 ans maintenant. On lui a donné des outils pour se valoriser un peu mieux. On lui a donné des outils pour ramener au Guatemala et puis remonter sa famille un petit peu. Il donnait près de la moitié de son salaire à l'Église. Et puis il a vite réalisé que donner la moitié de son salaire à l'Église fournissait absolument aucun bénéfice à sa famille. Au lieu de donner la moitié de son salaire à l'Église, Il a construit une école. La première école secondaire dans son comté. Sa fille, c'est la première personne dans son comté à aller à l'école secondaire que lui a construit.
These people are better than I am. They have struggled in where they come from. They have not got the better things of life, and they have left their families, which is huge sacrifice to come here and help our industry in Canada.
These people are treated well. They want to be here, and they help our economy thrive and move into the future.
On a personal level, I mean, I'm a people person.
Josh he don't come like a boss, he come like a brother with us, right? Because even when Josh come to Jamaica, he don't go to a hotel, he come to our house. Who don't have a vehicle, he take cab with us. Josh, we just respect Josh.
These guys, you know, we've been working together for 14 years, and now I've traveled down there this year. Hopefully, I go. Will be year number 5. So, like every time I go to everyone's house. You know, I know their neighbors, I know their brothers, I know their cousins, I know their, you know. So, I'm invested quite heavily in their personal lives, and so they mean a lot to me.
This is human. Like, we're all humans. Right? First of all. Right? We gotta take care of each other, you know. Doesn't matter how much money you have, it's not a go with you.
Well, one of the best things for me, like every year I come here, I learn something more, right? And coming here on the farm, I like me to a lot of stuff that I want to dream of. Since I come here, I learn a lot.
We argue about who is benefiting the most out of the relationship, and so yeah, they mean a lot to me personally, for sure, because they're friends, and I mean they're like their family.
This program is a life changer for a lot of people, not just in the Caribbean. I know if I can say if you were talking to a Mexican, they could say the same thing also. There's so much opportunity for these guys to make something of themselves. They can do things that they wouldn't normally be able to do for their families. We are grateful for the opportunity.
When you come into a country as a stranger and are treated the way that we are treated, you know, you honestly don't have a lot to. There's no negatives, in other words, so there's not a lot to add or to take away from that other than to say thanks for having us here and for giving us the opportunity, you know, to do the things that we've done.
At the end of the day, as the farm winds down and the greenhouses close for the night, the stories are expressed over and over by both worker and host about growing friendships, about real loyalty, about family and future, about the heartbeat that grows stronger every day down on the farm.
Okay, we're back again. Motion moved by Councillor Van Passen, seconded by Councillor Geisens, that council reconvene in open session at 11:16 a.m. All those in favor? And that's carried. So next thing on the agenda is Hastings Drive. Councillor Martin has some photos that she's going to pass out. As we had discussed previously at council, there's been some serious concerns from residents with cottages at the end of Hastings of the road currently being washed out. You can see in the photos where rock was previously placed. It's about 20 years ago now that it's just kind of, it's fallen over in time. There was discussions of having a coastal engineer come in the fall and a working group and so on. I've spoken with the gentleman that actually did the work for Norfolk County in the past and believes that he could certainly do the same work again to be able to protect those areas along county-owned lands along Hastings Drive, because at the end of the day, it's the county that's not living up to their end of the deal right there, or right now. I contacted Judy Maxwell at Long Point to receive the permit that was issued by Long Point for these works. I discussed the possibility of this individual, Brad Dedrick, who had previously done the work, of him redoing some of that work along there, and Ms. Maxwell at Long Point saw absolutely no problem with it whatsoever. So you have a copy of the permit. She sent it to me. She just ensured that sometimes a permit would suggest that the owner themselves would be doing the work, but in this case, she realizes it would be an outside contractor, and she said that that also did fall within the permit. It's just that we as the owners needed to have it. So I guess the motion that I wanted to bring forward today was that council authorize an upset limit of $10,000 for labor and materials for shoreline reinforcement along all county-owned lands along Hastings Drive. Any discussion? Councillor Martin.
No, I just wonder if maybe it should be articulated that this should be treated as a priority issue, because this was supposed to be dealt with on our last council meeting prior to summer break.
Councillor Shelley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And further to Councillor Martin's point, I do know that, at our last council meeting, there was a little bit of discussion about, there are several other infrastructure projects that have been on the books for a long time and have not been done. But I do want to reiterate one of the differences in this case, which I believe makes it urgent, is that in all of the other examples that we might cite, I know Councillor Van Passen often likes to refer to the Marburg Bridge being closed for so many years, is that there, in that case, residents have options. They can drive around another road. In this particular case, on Hastings Drive, these people have no options.
Councillor Columbus. Or Van Passen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a question to staff. Do we have to waive the purchasing policy? Should that be added to that motion?
Thanks. I just added that actually at the bottom, Dad. Thank you. Councillor Huffman.
Thank you, Mayor Chop. So a question would be, the pictures that were taken after an extremely serious, violent storm. Is that correct?
Well, the water's still out there. It just happens to be when I received the pictures, but I've been down there a couple times.
Okay, because I was down there just a couple weeks ago, and actually it had rained quite heavily, I think the night before, and there was still the water over the roads and stuff, and I found the road in my vehicle quite passable, and I didn't encounter any water on Hastings. So, I mean, in terms of it being urgent, I would not say that it's urgent. Is it something that we need to look at? Yes, but I do think that there's other issues in the county that would probably be deemed just as urgent.
Councillor Columbus. up to? I spoke with Mr. That's kind of my point with the whole situation, is for a nominal amount of money. In fact, he quoted me much less for the actual. He figured 2 days worth of work and he would be able to pull the rock back, which is all these people have been asking for. So for such a nominal amount, we could actually go and hopefully save that end of the road before it's too late.
That many lots. I always thought there was an issue with MNRF on this whole hardening of the shoreline. Do we not have to get their approval?
I contacted Judy and Judy said we were good to go.
Yeah, that's LPRCA, but I thought MNRF came into the equation somewhere. Maybe Mr. Benacker can share some information on that.
Yeah, so in the past, when we've done work on Hastings Drive, or in the Long Point area in general, we have got permits through the LPRCA. As part of that process, we've also got approvals from MNRF with respect to species at risk. So I know we have these permits in place, but I think it would be beneficial to reach out to MNRF. I do have a contact there, just to say, here is our LPRCA permit. And that's kind of how it's worked in the past, where they review the LPRCA permit, the work that's proposed, and then they state whether there's any mitigating measures or concerns with respect to species at risk. So it's probably a good idea for us to touch base with MNRF and just make sure that we're not interfering with species at risk.
Okay, so just to clarify there, all we're looking at doing is pulling back the rock and possibly maybe adding some additional rock along that area. I'm surprised that Ms. Maxwell at Long Point wouldn't have mentioned that, and I'm kind of surprised we've had this permit from 2017. So now if the suggestion is to go through another approval process with MNRF. Councilor Van Passen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think we have a permit to repair something exists. We're not going to go create something. We've had a lot of high water this year and a lot of windy days that sort of moved 10-ton rocks 20 feet out into the water, and they need to get dragged back in. So we're not creating something. I think that's a whole different ball game than, actually putting it there in the first place. And we have our permit in hand, and I'm sure if we're doing something wrong, the MNRF will show up and tell us to stop. But I wouldn't go ask them about it. Like, I'm sure they know right now that we're going to do this, and let them tell us no and give us a reason why not, rather than ask them for permission.
Councilor Martin.
I believe when we had property owners come and speak to us, they informed us that they were able to do the exact same work with this exact same permit, and they have done so. It's that the county has not done so.
I agree.
Through you, Mayor, to Council, I think in an abundance of caution, I would think that Sean should be, we should allow Sean to at least close the loop with MRF. I don't think you want to be in the bad side of that. I'm sure if there should be no issues with it, but he should validate with MNRF.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Sean, I'm just wondering how long that verification would take.
From past experience, MNRF's been pretty quick to turn this stuff around. It's not an onerous approval process. I think it can be as simple as a site meeting with MNRF staff to say, here's what's proposed and here's what we plan to do, and just to get the green light from them to proceed in that confirmation that they don't have concerns with what we're doing. I appreciate what Councillor Martin has said with respect to the private property owners getting approval through MNRF. Sometimes the concern that they have has to do more with the timing of the work than the work itself, and that relates to the species at risk that may be affected during that time. As an example, in past, when we were working with beach sand, the concern was with Fowler toad. And so we had a timing window in which we had to complete the work, and that may be some of the comment that comes back. So I'm not sure, but I think it's worthwhile to reach out to the MNRF and at least inform them of our plans to do this.
I guess this would be layers of bureaucracy at its finest, because Long Point has just told me there's absolutely no problem with going and doing this. Councillor Van Passen.
That would be my point exactly, that right now is the window, because once you get into September, well, we have certain fish that spawn in the fall, so you can't do the work then. Then we got the little fowler toads who hibernate in the sand, so they're going to be coming up on shore, and you can't do it then, and you can't do it in the spring because there's other species of fish that spawn then. August is about the only time you can do this kind of work, because otherwise there's always a department who says no. So we could either waste the time filling out paperwork and having site meetings and discussing it, or you phone the guy and he shows up with a backhoe and he fixes it in a day's, 2 days' time, and he's gone.
I'm also curious, since this has been going on for some time, and we've been discussing Hastings Drive for a while now, and this particular road repair, and why nobody before now, it seems like a last stop measure to maybe try to prevent it. Why didn't this get brought up before, that we needed MRF? Why didn't we start working on the approvals before now, knowing that we needed to do this? I mean, the argument all along at every council meeting has been that we have this permit and time is running out on the permit that expires October 25th, 2019. But yet nobody's mentioned MRF before.
Again, I stand by, I think, an abundance of caution. I mean, he's got a contact there. We strongly recommend that at least close the loop, but council can overrule that.
Councilor Michelli.
Madam Mayor, I just to that point about the MNRF, I do recall actually during our last discussion of this Hastings Drive issue that staff did mention one of the reasons why, and if you recall, the suggestion was that we would be able to look at this in late September, and I do recall mention about part of the reason for that longer time period was this MNRF approval. But I do have to concur with Councillor Van Passen. I think that, you know, unless we are really breaking some rules, I think we can go ahead. But I also, I have been personally trying to get in touch with MNRF, and I'm not sure if Mr. Van Acker would agree with me, but sometimes the response time is not super fast, partly because I think most of us know they have had some funding cutbacks as well, and they literally have not been able to attend certain sites because their staff are not allowed to travel because it will increase their budget. And so I just want to just mention that as you know, something to kind of consider, but nevertheless, I want to err on the side of safety, as our CAO is suggesting in that regard, but I also don't want to get bogged down in a project that is literally, like Councillor Van Passen said, a couple of days' work. And in addition to that, you know, this is maybe connected to what I see as the part of the urgency here, is private residents have done this work on their own, at their own expense. This is county property that would kind of complete the picture, and we are the ones who are, you know, recalcitrant and not getting it done. So, with all of that in mind, I would recommend going ahead and hoping perhaps that we won't be in violation of any of these other conditions that could appear in the next, you know, 6 weeks. Thank you.
Would you like to move the proposed motion then, Councillor Michelli?
Yes, I would, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Huffman. Of course, the addition to that is simply that staff waive the necessary procurement policies. Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor? And that's carried unanimously. The next piece is in terms of our CAO recruitment. And I've met with an executive search firm. I've had some conversations with Mr. Schlang, and what I'm thinking, but certainly like to hear everybody else's thoughts today, is that what we should do prior to AMO is post an ad for a full-time CAO with both CAMA and OMA, which is the Ontario Municipal Managers Association. So that would be posted prior to AMO. Then we look at taking out an ad in Municipal World with not necessarily a fixed closing date at this point, but that we look at appointing another interim CAO with the maximum term length not to exceed the time that Mr. Schlang was going to remain here until. My concern from speaking with a number of other mayors is there's not a lot of CAOs that are out there right now, and I don't think we want to operate again without a CAO in place. So there's some ideas here and that I've kind of worked with Mr. Schlang on, so we would like to present an option for an interim CAO in closed session. But in terms of the recruitment piece, that we get the ad posted, and then in Q4, just as we had always communicated out, we would engage in, we could determine the level of how aggressively we wanted to engage in that recruitment process, whether it was, if we had a lot of interest from the ads, well, perhaps we don't need to go spend the money on a search firm. If we don't have that much interest on the ads, then clearly we are going to need to spend some money with a firm like Phelps. And through that, one thing I liked about Phelps's sort of recruitment process is it's a pretty well-developed plan that they have. They consult with all of council members to understand their vision moving forward. The selection team would be comprised of, it could be comprised of a few members of council. I would like to see it as being all members of council on the selection committee. They would present a long list of candidates to us, and from there we would begin to narrow it down. So again, that would take place in Q4. Thoughts? So, Councillor Rabbit.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, I'm in support of the plan as presented. I think it makes good sense. It would be ideal for us to have a CAO in a role throughout our budget discussions that we'll be approaching in the fall and into the winter months. And it would be a good interest for us to continue with our original plan for going Harry Schlang leaving his role as CAO. And we have a plan, we've established it, we can continue down that road, and having someone on an interim basis is something that we've agreed upon in the past, and it's something that we can continue to do. All of us knowing all the well along that we would be seeking a permanent solution for that key position in our administration. So I'm in support of it, and I'm hoping that the rest of our colleagues here would also be in support of it, but I'd be interested in hearing if they had any other thoughts and opinions on how that would unfold, respecting any conversations that would identify with individuals we're going to be having in closed session following our discussion this afternoon.
Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just curious about a rough cost estimate for the ads that would be run? Or is that, if we're going forward with this, we'd have a report come back with those rough estimates?
It wouldn't exceed more than 5,000, and you'd get national coverage with CAMA, OMA, and Municipal World. So I think it's well worth it to see if you get some interest.
Especially, I mean, if we do get enough interest and we do get some good candidates out of that come the fall, then again, I mean, an executive search firm, as we know, is going to cost us significantly more. It may very well be still worth it to do that, but we can evaluate that in the fall based on what we've seen. Okay, so that then a motion that council approve of proceeding to try to fill the CAO role on an interim basis while continuing to post for a permanent CAO. If I could have a mover and a seconder. Councillor Rabbits and seconded by Councillor Taylor. All those in favor? Okay, and then I guess at this point then we'll move into closed session to discuss a possible appointment for an interim. But we, I know, yeah, but we have to close session. You can go. It's a. I can almost do it from memory at this point. Okay. Just a motion moved by Counselor Geisen, seconded by Counselor Van Passen, that council move into closed session at 11:36 a.m. Pursuant to sections 239, 2E, F, and C of the Municipal Act 2001, as amended as the subject matter pertains to litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality of local boards. The advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, and subject matters that pertain to a proposed acquisition or we don't need that part. So, all those in favor? Carried. Okay, and back in open session then again, motion moved by Councillor Rabbits and seconded by Councillor Van Passen that council reconvene in open session at 12:17 PM. All those in favor? And that's carried. So I guess just for the public or press that's watching, that council has decided to move forward with appointing an interim CAO, again with the appointment of a full-time CAO to be in the first quarter of next year. With that, I guess we'll move to the bylaws. So motions moved by Councillor Rabbits and seconded by Councillor Van Passen that bylaw 2019-82 and bylaws 5Z 2018 be approved, signed by the mayor and clerk and affixed with the corporate seal. All those in favor? Carried. The next is that bylaw 2019-83 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the special council held on August 7, 2019 be approved, signed by the mayor and clerk and affixed with the corporate seal. Moved by Councillor Van Passen, seconded by Councillor Rabbits. All those in favor? Carried. And finally, that council adjourn at 12:18 PM. Moved by Councillor Van Passen, seconded by Councillor Rabbits. All those in favor? Thanks very much, everybody, for coming in on your summer. I appreciate it. And enjoy your next couple weeks off.